There are principles, three principles of human relating that will guarantee harmony between a husband and wife, between anyone, any peoples, and even between nations. Three principles. Guarantee. One is where we were at spiritually. That's the most important one. Our spirituality, inner disposition is correct according to God. Second one is understanding, really understanding who the other person is, and also understanding ourselves, our needs, our background, and so on. The third one is communication. How we communicate, but in particular, how we listen, how we hear, and most particularly, the message of the other person. Not so much the words, the message beneath the words. We're failing miserably in the world today, and even our culture, in all three of those, but especially the third one. And this was demonstrated the last several days here as we were taking the spirituality, especially the mystery of the cross, the both and spirituality, and teachings of the church, to the issue of the war in Iran, especially in regard to America and our leaders, President Trump and so on. If you recall, and I recommend you go back, and if you doubt what I'm going to say here, go back and review the last several posts we made here. Review them and listen to what the message is, what we really said. Especially Southside Joe, because he tells it straight. There were 6 things that were pro-President Trump, not because he's Donald Trump, because he's the President of the United States. In other words, pro our nation, pro-America. 6 things within one short message by both me to President Trump and Southside Joe. Southside Joe says it best. He gets right to the point. Here's these 6 things. Did you hear them? Here they are. We're praying for you, Mr. President. Lots, tons. We're praying for you. We're for you. We want you to succeed. So I'm telling you, it's trying to help you. It's all about him, all about our nation. I'm taking the risk, because you could misunderstand me, and so could many others, and get mad at me, reject me. But I'll risk that for you. Notice it's all for you. I'm being honest with you. That's a risk. And as Southside Joe said, and I did, the people around you, Mr. Trump, are not going to be honest with you, and it is obvious. It takes risk. It takes integrity. It takes love to be honest with someone. And we recommended, here was our takeaway, both myself and Southside Joe, recommending war according to God's way. Yes, God's way. And to help us understand God's way, review the teaching of the church on just war. 6 positives. The main message at the end was about God, not politics, not Trump. How in the world, with those 6 points, all in one short address to Mr. Trump, could anyone respond by making this wild leap, irrelevant leap, disconnected leap, that we're against Trump, you have to know how good he is, and we're for the enemy. We don't understand how bad the enemy is. You're making it all about Trump. It's not about him, it's the enemy. What's wrong with you? How can anyone make that leap by really listening to the message of myself and Southside Joe? I can tell you why. Because the problem is we don't know how to listen. And we listen not with our mind, heart, soul, our personhood. We listen, we sift everything through where we're at inside. In other words, our convictions or ideology. And we listen to hear if the other person is saying that's something in accord with what we think. And when we hear something we think is not that way, we jump, judge, indict, dismiss. Like that. That's a problem in this country. And it was clearly demonstrated in the last few presentations we've made here. What we do here, if you've been with us any amount of time, here's what I do. I am about one thing and one thing only. What this is about. God and spirituality. But it's real to me. It's real. And I want the world, I want you or anyone listening to learn from that, to absorb that, to live that. Because I am all for you. I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy on earth and happy in heaven. And help make other people happy here. Have a happy nation, a happy government, happy global relationships. So I'm all about happy, happy, happy. But happiness comes from holiness. And there's a way to be holy. So what I do is I take spirituality. I apply it then, because I want it to be so real to you. I apply it to what is real to you. Whether that's good or bad or right or wrong. I know where you live. I know where people live. They live in politics. They live in ideologies. Liberal, conservative, what I think, you think, us against you. I have to take it to where you really live and insert the spiritual principles into that venue so that it goes in there. It's like putting a drop of dye in water. It colors the water. It colors your water beautiful, holy, happy. So the venue is not the point. But what happens because we don't listen is we make the venue the point. The point, the message from me and Southside Joe, and this is the truth with everything I present, is the spiritual principle. What was the smash ending of Joe's message to Trump? God and the church. God and the church. Not ideology, not political policy, not even what we're doing with the war. The war, Trump and so on, were a venue for the spirituality. And what happens most of the time, and I take risks in doing this, because I know what's going to happen, because you have a problem with listening, with communication, our culture, a deep, terrible problem. The venue will become the issue. And we completely miss the message. Completely missed six principles that were supportive of our nation, our government, and yes, even of President Trump. 6. They were completely missed because you didn't hear those messages. We heard what we want to hear. We hear what gets sifted through where we're at. And we listen like a bird of prey, waiting for its prey. And then we jump and indict and condemn, dismiss, and completely miss the message. We're going to talk more about this big problem. It's a problem globally. That's why there's wars. We don't really listen to one another, understand one another, and try to capture the message that's underneath the words. We don't always choose the right words, but there's always a message. That's why we focused in this case on the rhetoric. No, we did not focus on everything about President Trump. We did not make an indictment about his whole self, but you had to come and defend. We said nothing like that. But some of you, that's all you heard, because you didn't hear. You heard what's inside of you, and you thought that's what I was saying. It's about spirituality. That's what we're about here. And we applied it to the venue. We applied it to the popes. Same thing happened with the popes. I talked about an approach to the popes, especially the last two, who seem to be rather confusing and problematic for most people. I didn't render a verdict. See, many had their verdicts already. and they wanted me to join in the verdict. Otherwise, I'm one of them. I thought you were different. Indict, condemn, dismiss. What was I doing with the popes? If you remember that series, what was I doing? Like the same thing I'm doing now, what I did last few days. I used the Pope as a venue, because that's where everybody's at. That's where all these feelings and convictions are out. He's a modernist, he's a liberal, he's a whatever. He's our guy. No, he's not our guy. Okay, we're passionate about that. So that's where I'm going to go. That's where I'm going to go with the spiritual principle. Not the Pope, not Trump, not the war. I'm going to go with the principle. Because that is what the principle is about. It's supposed to be relevant. We're supposed to use that principle, these principles from God, not Tom Loya, not even Southside Joe. The principles are used to guide how we understand, how we act. I am about the principles, the spirituality. But I want it to be so real, I will take it to those places where you really live, what you really care about. But you have to listen to the message, not the venue. It's not about the venue. It's about the message. Go back and review it. Review Southside Joe. I think it's still up there on Facebook. Pick out the 6 positive principles embedded in that. You can't possibly come to the conclusion that I make it all about Trump and I'm all favoring the Iranians. Don't I know how terrible they are? You can't possibly come to that. Can't possibly, unless you're suffering from the malady that we're going to address here. You don't listen. You don't really listen. Not with our heart, our soul, our mind, our personhood. We don't listen at all. We sift through our own ideologies, our convictions, and then we judge and we indict, dismiss. But that's happening on a global level. Communication, how to listen, to really listen. Understanding the person who we're dealing with, or a nation that we're really dealing with, which, as Southside Joe pointed out, we don't understand, which we don't. We do not. We don't understand the whole Eastern world in America. That's why our policies sometimes are so lousy and don't bring about good fruits when we deal with the East. Just look at history. Don't take issue with things. Look at history, facts. And above all, spirituality. As I mentioned, the rhetoric points to a spirituality. That's my concern. Not just words. Many of you dismiss, oh, it's just words. Come on. It's sad. The words come from an interior disposition. If the interior disposition is off, it could be very dangerous. And history has proven that. So yes, the rhetoric does matter, because it's not just the rhetoric. The rhetoric is attached to something. It points to something deeper. So if you want to improve communication in your marriage, in your human relationships all over, to you and your boss, your coworkers, your priest, whatever, if the world wants to improve relations, although we seem to be enjoying killing each other and bombing, everybody's thing seems to be the thing to do nowadays. Let's just destroy each other. We don't have money to feed our people, give them jobs, but we have endless amounts of bombs to kill. Every nation. Tune in if you want greater harmony in your life.